Okay, zoning board, we are live, we are recording, phone lines are open, go for it.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for July 26, 2022. We have one canceled hearing this evening, and that is Sean and Patricia Bratches at 138 Marine Boulevard. And so we'll go to the first scheduled hearing, and I'll read that into the record. It's Terrence O'Connell at 9 Madison Drive in Montauk, Suffolk, tax number 300-68-02-14.1. The applicant is Terrence O'Connell. Size and location is 10,000 square feet at 9 Madison Drive, Montauk Beach, Hither Hills 2, map number 1315 in Montauk. The description is to allow a roughly 232 square foot wood deck with roof overhang, pergola, and first and second story wood decking to remain within front yard setbacks. The relief sought is one variance of 9.3 feet from 255-1110. Is required to allow existing decking with roof overhang and pergola to remain 10.7 feet from the front yard lot line, where 20 foot is required. And any other relief necessary from East Hampton Town Code. Zoning district is B residence, zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
We have an affidavit of service and posting reflecting that both the mailing and posting were done on the 12th of July, 2022, and the paperwork appears to be in order.
Thank you. And whose field report is
I
this?
got this one.
Terry, go ahead.
Okay, it's the notice of posting. Now, this is not the applicant's house to the right. It was posted toward the right side of their property. So the next shot I'm just going to scan over. You also get the notice of posting, but you can see the house behind some of the trees there toward the left. Next. So this is a look out east, out on Madison Drive. This house is at the corner of Madison and actually I forget the name of the cross street. Next, this is a shot down that cross street, or no, Arthur Avenue. There it is. Okay, this is Madison looking the other direction. You can see there's a new house being built on that corner of Arthur and Madison on the south side. Next, and this is the house. The one directly across the street, I believe, is this one. You can see the feel of character in the neighborhood. Next, it's a shot down that intersection, looking south from the applicant's driveway. Next. Okay, this is the front of the house, one of the porch that's in question. And next is another shot. This looks over the first and second story decks that are in question in the pergola in the photo there. And you can see a little bit of the neighbor to the west. Next. It's a side view from the western side of the house. Next. And that's another shot farther back on the applicant's property, looking at the neighbor to the west. Next. Yeah, there was a mention that this fire pit area does not show on the survey. I think one of the planner mentioned that. So I did take a shot of that, and that can be addressed if necessary. Next. This is a shot of the back of the house where the second story deck wraps around and goes toward the front. Next, it's a shot across east to west on the back portion of the house. See the retaining wall behind the fire pit area and those trees. Next. And this is just a shot down the west side where there's really nothing in for the application on this one. Next. And that's a shot looking from the front of the house down the east side. See another neighbor toward the north beyond that. And I believe that's it. Is that it? Yeah.
Thank you, Terry. Agent, who's the agent for this? Andy, come on up.
Good afternoon, Chairman Deline, members of the board. Richard A. Hammer from Biano and Hammer in Montauk here tonight, representing Terry O'Connell for the property at 9 Madison Drive. I haven't been involved with this application very long. Terry just called me, I think, last week and asked me if I would be able to cover the hearing for him, as he was unable to attend tonight. It was going to be a monumental thing for him to be out here today.
Andy, before we go, the survey that we have is 3/24/22. Is that the survey?
Yes, I believe that is the last revision date.
It was brought up that the fire pit area that's not on the survey. So was that constructed this year?
I believe it was, yes.
Okay. Do you know if that is? How do we deal with that? That's another structure, or what are we going to do about that?
Any relief for it? So wherever it is located.
Yeah, but we don't know where it is relative to the property line.
Well, sort of what brought us here to the first place is they were trying to get the certificate of occupancy. So essentially, we're going to have to update the survey to go in for the certificate of occupancy at that point, and then it'll be rendered compliant. However, it was constructed. And looking at it, it looks like it's railroad ties and some gravel. I don't know.
But I think that's considered a structure. Is that correct?
I don't know. I'd have to ask the building department, but it wasn't something I was prepared to address tonight because it wasn't part of the application that he had submitted. But whatever needs to be done to rectify it, if anything, will be done when they come back out for the final inspection. They have to redo the final inspection for them to qualify.
Okay.
And
all right, let's go.
be handled then. So as I was explaining, I don't have a long association with this application, but I do know the property fairly well. This house was originally Gavino Mapula's house way back in the day. My partner represented Gavino over the years. And if you didn't know Gavino, he was Montauk's sole doctor for a long time. He was sort of part of the fabric of Montauk when I first started working out there. In fact, we obtained the updated certificate of occupancy when Gavino sold to Mr. O'Connell in 2013 is when he purchased the property. The permit history on this, which is discussed fairly at length in the TAM, it does have it's a little bit of a strange and kind of long building history. I think they do a good job of explaining it. This house was originally moved to here, this before Gavino owned the property. The lot's about 10,000 square foot lot in Heather Hills. That's about standard. It might be larger than some. If you drive up Arthur, there are some that are smaller, 8,000 square foot lots. There are also some larger properties in the vicinity of it. So it's kind of like an eclectic area, but 10,000 square feet is about average in the area. I visited the property today myself just to verify it was posting and to kind of update my understanding of the area. I know it fairly well. One of my babysitters lives around the corner, but it's kind of a labyrinth of smaller lots and roads. So I just wanted to kind of reacquaint it. What struck me most about the neighborhood is how narrow the paved streets are in this area. On this property, you have about 15 feet of unpaved road right of way in front of it. And it buffers most of the lot lines in the neighborhood from the actual street, which is about standard in the neighborhood as you drive around. There's hardly enough room for two cars to pass, or just barely. Basically, you can get two cars by, but it's not paved to the full length of the right of way. The front yard setback was really impossible to discern as you drive down these roads on any of the properties. And the covered porch looked perfectly in character with the neighborhood. And actually, I think it looks lovely. When I visited it, I was really, taken aback at how nice it looks on the streetscape. Essentially, we have two errors that have been compounded over the years. One is the fact that the front yard porch was never actually approved by the town, despite it being approved multiple times and multiply issued certificates of occupancy over the past. It was purchased. It was there when Mr. Mapula had the house. It was there when he sold to Mr. O'Connell, and appears on the CO survey as well.
We're talking about, there's a bunch of different aspects to this, right?
Yeah.
So you're presently talking about what? The front porch?
The covered porch.
The
that's
covered
correct.
porch that was in the early pictures, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
And so the certificates of occupancy that have been issued over the years have been issued either in error or, had been issued without regard to it. And I think part of that is back in the day, they used to say a stoop is excluded and it had to be a certain size. I don't know exactly how this became part of the feature of the property, but there was a pretty clear history that the property received the variance because it was relocated onto this property, and it was ultimately placed too close to the property line. The second error was that the building department issued a permit, not only depicting the change on the plans, but there was also a pretty specific discussion of this issue with Ann Glennon, while this permit was pending. And I'm not pointing the finger. It's been a pretty crazy time at the building department. This wasn't called out as part of the building permit description, although it was shown on the plans. And that's likely an error on the applicant, and certainly is just part of the nature of what went on here. It did ultimately slip through the cracks, and it was again picked up at the final inspection when they requested the certificate of occupancy. The building inspector came out and said, "Hey, wait a second, I noticed this wasn't part of the original permit history." That's why we're in front of the board. And actually, we got in front of you, Mr. O'Connell actually handled the submissions. I want to say it was from March to today. I mean, that's fairly expedient in my book. And I think it was partially because of it's a fairly simple application, and we had all the documentation up to date prior to that CO inspection. It's unfortunate, of course, that the architect and the architect who drew the plans and the contractor who built this, didn't pick up on this, and neither did the town when the building permits were granted. And I'm assuming there were inspections along the way, framing, et cetera. However, as I said, I personally visited the site, and the variance standards point to the benefit to the applicant versus the detriment to the general health, welfare, and safety of the town. I didn't really see a detriment. It's really a nice looking house and a really nice looking porch. I particularly like the standing seam metal roof aspect of it, and I think it's overall an appearance, a benefit to the appearance of the structure if you compare it to some of the old photographs. And I do have some of the old photographs here if you don't have them in the record. It's shingled. It looks like it's been there a long time, or at least in character with the neighborhood for a long time, and it fits in the streetscape perfectly. The property location is also somewhat compelling with respect to the variance. As Member Berger pointed out, Arthur if you drove up Arthur, you would drive right into the house, basically. So it's not a corner lot, but it does have a lot of road exposure. And I think that the requested variance in this instance softens it from all of these appearances. It makes it a little more homey appearing as you drive by. When this was originally granted, the variance to be the house structure to be 19 feet, it left no room for the imagination. So what you had.
I know, but we have previous determinations also by a zoning board. So making something homier doesn't negate those, right? So what I want to do is concentrate on what was previously okay in this previous CO, what the building permit allowed, and then what specifically was built after that. So there's certain thing like the pergola, I believe, was built after that.
Pergola was included as part of the current building permit plans. It did not increase the degree of nonconformity from the existing porch. However, the porch has appeared on multiple COs. So that is essentially what it is you have a certificate of occupancy and multiple certificates of occupancy that approve the porch.
So you're just before us on the front porch. Is that it?
The front porch, the portion of the pergola, I think Terry's photo was pretty good. It showed the front porch with a pergola offsetting it. And then there's a tiny little bit of that second story deck that's within the front yard setback. The house itself was constructed about 19 feet. So the area of the second story deck.
Right. So that second floor deck and the pergola was part of a building permit?
That's correct.
Okay. Right there,
Yeah,
that picture there?
Exactly. So you can see
It's
that
that
the
portion.
house is actually non-conforming as per the zoning board. When it was placed here, it's 19 feet. And we're talking about 1980. I mean, I don't know what the zoning board was like in 1980, but it seems almost crazy to say, well, okay, we missed it by a foot. But that's what happened. So anything that is attached to the house 1 foot back would be within the front yard setback, which is not a whole lot of that. projection, but that pergola and that front porch would be part of it, and maybe the fascia board and, I don't know, 6 inches of that second story deck are effectively violating the front yard setback.
Well, actually, I think it's going to be that whole front porch. I mean,
The
the
whole-
house
yeah, the whole-
itself was only 19 feet
That's
back.
correct. So the
So
whole
it's the
front
entire
porch.
front porch. It's the pergola and parts of the second story, I believe. Anything that goes less than that 19 feet
That
away.
19 feet, that's correct. And it's all clearly shown on the construction plans, which I know the zoning board has a copy of. But like I said, it was a crazy time. This was discussed. I can show you the email with Ann Glennon about the porch and the extent of the work. It just never got transcribed into the building permit, which would have just made it an easier argument in front of you to say, oh, look, and it was included in the building permit. But it was discussed, but it just never made it into typing at the building department. So, it's sort of understandable. But, in effective analysis, it really comes down to, is there a detriment to the general health, welfare, and safety? This applicant wasn't trying to hide any of this work. He wasn't trying to gain a benefit he didn't think he was otherwise entitled to. And the end result actually looks pretty good, and is indiscernible from the road frontage. And based on the location of the lot, I think it's actually probably improves the appearance of the house as you come up Arthur and some of the other neighboring streets. I'm available to answer whatever questions I can. I did get neighbors' letters of support for the application that I'll submit you, and it comes with a little map to show you who the neighbors are, but they're the most directly affected neighbors next door and across the street that said they didn't object to the variance. So I'll submit those to the board's record. These are not they're probative, not dispositive at the end of the day, but I think these are the people that would be most directly impacted, and they seem to think that they have no objection to the grant of the requested front yard variance. As a matter of fact, they say it's more aesthetically pleasing and consistent with the surrounding than the previous condition of the house. And that was kind of my impression after driving around the neighborhood as well as somebody who doesn't live there.
Can we say then that, I'm sorry, you want to
Go
say?
ahead.
Can we say then that, for a fact that the building permit was issued with a drawing that reflects what's in place right now?
Yes,
Those
I
drawings
have
reflect
copy of
exactly
those
what we
plans
have
with
there?
me tonight.
So the
Yes,
building permit was issued with a drawing that reflects what we say.
that's
Okay,
correct.
which building
That's right.
permit are we
I'm
talking
looking
about?
at it now. The
There's
building permit,
multiple building permits,
the building permit is dated 5/21/21,
the latest one.
and the
Okay.
drawings are dated for permit
Yeah, and the plans that
12/21.
show it are private residence
Issued for-
exterior
yeah, it says issued
alteration.
for permit.
Issued for permit, yes, that set of plans, but it even shows the pergola, it shows it right down to the standing seam roof. And you know what, I can submit a copy of the emails going back and forth, which once again, I'm not trying to cast aspersion on anybody, but it was discussed directly with Ann Glennon, and he said, no, that portion, this 200 and X square feet is going to be reconstructed, and that's, so, they had a discussion about it. It just never resulted in either being added to the permit or somebody saying, oh, wait a second, you shouldn't add that to the permit. It just kind of fell through the cracks as this was being processed by the town.
Okay, well, if you could submit the communications from the building.
Sure, I
inspector,
certainly
would
will.
like
I
that.
just had them in my hand, and of course now I lost them in my pile of paper here, but I'm sure I'll find it quickly.
You're going to submit
Okay,
all of
but-
that this evening, the letters of support? You're going to get those now, Andy?
That's correct. I have the two things, and here's the email from Ann Glennon dated May 17th, 2021, responding back and forth about the extent of the, so this is of May last year, right before the permit was being reviewed.
I mean, according to the planning board's TAM, there was a series of events. The original house, as you mentioned, being 19 feet from the front porch, from the front there setback. And then that was compounded by getting recorded in the C of Os over time.
Over
So
time.
here we
that's
are
correct.
today, and it's now they're looking to get a pretty substantial variance of 9.3 feet. So, all that into consideration, it's still a large variance.
Yeah, and I don't mean to say that it wasn't. It's just one of those that has evolved over time. And at the end of the day, the variance standards are benefit to the applicant, detriment. this is, it isn't hard structure. It's an open porch, and I do think it's an aesthetic improvement over the existing house in many respects. So the question is, does it have a detriment? I didn't perceive one when I was driving around the neighborhood, and the three most directly impacted neighbors seem to agree that they think it's an aesthetic improvement over the existing residence that benefits the neighborhood.
Except this applicant now is relatively recent, as an owner will say that. And he's, he got a permit in 2021. And anything he does in the front of that house, is going to be out of code.
There's no way to do anything else to the front of this residence. And a relatively recent, 2013, this is somebody who's had it since 2019 and a half. This is somebody who's owned this house for a while. And when I spoke to him about it, he said, yeah, we purchased the house from Gavino and have always been saving up to do some renovation work. So when they did the plans, it included everything, the exterior, the interior, and that, so that plan that was submitted in 2021 was several years of consideration in terms of, hey, how can we benefit and upgrade this house to really become a better aesthetic and a better asset for the family in terms of how they use it. So it wasn't a Johnny come lately. It's not a spec house. This is something that was done by him for his family and his use of the property. So I'll submit these to Laura and in closing, without any other questions, or I'm happy to answer them, this is not a typical application. It's not something that if I'd been involved with, I would have felt 100% strongly, oh yeah, this is not a problem. I think this is a problem, but it's a problem.
Well, I mean, it's a problem. It's a problem because you would have thought an architect would have known the setbacks to begin with, too.
Absolutely. I mean, that was the first thing I said to him. I said, who, as an architect, would think you can build 11 feet from a property line in the town of East Hampton? And the answer is, well, not my argument. I mean, it was a mistake that was compounded. And a contractor, same thing. You would expect somebody would have picked up on this before it got to the point. I mean, it's complete. And Terry was there today. This was done, ready for final inspection. And that's when it was picked up. So, I don't mean to in any way belittle, the severity of what we're talking about here. However, in this particular neighborhood, in this particular instance, I think the benefit that it provided actually far outweighs any detriment, because
it's easy to say now, but if he came to us before, it would have been a much different outcome, most likely.
I'm not so sure. I mean, do you have pictures of the original residence? I can give you. I have a couple of them in my file, and I think it would be fair. It might be interesting for you to have one to compare the two facades.
It's curious to me that he put a pergola there as opposed to decking.
Well, that's aesthetic.
So these two pictures, this is the facade, and I believe you're looking at more or less the front aspect of it, then and now, with the deck and everything. And I don't know, my feeling is it looks much more interesting and much more consistent with the neighborhood than it did when Gavino had the property, excluding the satellite dish, which is probably DirecTV. I don't know if you can get that, but I'll submit.
I'll take that as.
Yeah, submit them because you're behind the pole.
Any other questions for Andy?
Are we getting that photo submitted to us of the previous?
Yes, and as per Phil Gamble, I am I'm
Thank you.
dating them and initialing them because that was his favorite thing in the world, was to tell people initial and date them. But these will be in your file so you can compare the two structures.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have no question.
All right, Tyler?
Let's get Tyler.
Tyler Borzak for the Planning Department.
You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I don't have much else to add. I don't want to go over what was already been mentioned. I will just try and clarify if there's any confusion as to what the application, what it is. There was an existing covered porch in the front of the house, dating back to the mid-90s. The original residence was placed in the wrong location. It was moved from somewhere else onto this property. They got a variance in order to keep it there. And then in the mid-90s, they got a building permit to construct that covered deck in the front, which appears to be in error. It's gotten numerous COs over the years. Excuse me. And in the most recent building permit, as part of that, they expanded that slightly and then added the pergola on the west side as well. So that's sort of how it came in front of the board. It expanded slightly, pergola as well, and then adding to that, legalizing it for once and for all, since it does appear to have been issued in error originally. So there's multiple aspects to it, but that's as succinct as I can sort of explain what the application is. I don't really have much else to add. The history went over pretty at length, and that's mostly what this application is. It's a front yard variance. So I can make myself available for questions if you have any, or you need to see any images from our file.
The porch that you said has been in place since the 90s.
Right.
And we have a permit now for additional work that's just been completed. We saw it when we did our field visit. And does that reflect the same dimensional situation that existed with the previous porch? Is this an expansion on that?
I think
porch?
I think it's a slight expansion to the east side and then the pergola on the west side.
Again, that was all part of the building permit in 21.
The 21 building permit didn't allow an expansion of that deck porch. It was just essentially a replacement of what was there.
It was for the permit, according to the property card, says demolish the 400.
Say that again. Which portion did they not allow?
They didn't allow any expansion of it.
As a
Didn't mention any expansion of the porch, or the pergola part of it. Just essentially a replacement of what was there.
So we don't know if they approved the pergola or not?
As part of it didn't exist prior.
No, I know, but there's a building permit that's subsequent to a set of drawings that is issued for permit.
Right. I don't believe the pergola
Is that
was part of that.
is that pergola part of the 521 permit?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe
I
so?
don't believe so. I can pull up the plans and we can look at it.
Can
but
you do that?
I'm pretty sure.
Now, if you could show us the picture again, Tyler. I mean, it was a 21 permit, but the pergola looks brand new.
So these are the plans. Oh yeah, lap beams over Trellis Circle Walkway. So that would be essentially what that pergola is now.
So it is, just Sandy Hammer again, it's consistent, it's shown on the plans, but it wasn't called out as part of the permitted work, the scope of work, and I did submit the email with Ann where they discussed it back and forth. So it was part of the original scope. It wasn't listed, but it does show the pergola and the porch expansion.
Part of the building permit. No, there's no pergola in the building permit.
And just for reference, this is the 95 building permit, and the CO was essentially the same, just to give some reference as to what it looked like then.
It says create trellis over walkway. So it does call it out.
Yeah.
Here. Can you go back to the photo of the
Sure.
one kind of from the east that catches the front and the side? And someone to look at the driveway.
I mean, it appears as if it is called out.
This one?
Yeah. So what we're talking about here is that pergola and they want to legalize the original covered porch, correct?
So that covered porch, was that ever part of a building permit?
The one in the front?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was part of, this one, which was, November 14th, 95.
Right, right.
So the
I
first,
think the TAM addresses that. Okay.
Yeah, 138 square foot roof porch, specifically noted, and it's on the survey.
Any other questions for Tyler?
No.
no. Okay.
Okay, Andy. You want to close?
I don't really have any much to answer or to add other than, it exists. It's something, in some respects, when Chairman Deline was like, well, if you'd asked us for permission, I think this one almost lends itself to, now that it exists, you get a real sense of what the difference is and what the change is. And I think it does help a little bit because it is a little bit more aesthetically interesting to me versus the original permits. And there, the question is there really a detriment that has laid itself out? I think you can point to the applicant, his agent, his architect, his contractor, and say, hey, that's not a hardship. But I do think there is a little bit of a murky history that's been compounded by several town approvals, and I think the board should take account of that into their deliberation as they consider the requested variance.
Is there any mitigation that he's offering? Would he
Well, I
be
think
willing to
that-
condition that nothing further will ever get done?
Well, I think it would obviously be silly for this applicant to approach this board for any further, but I think we would absolutely say that nothing further can be done. I do think the landscape that they put in is, a nice landscape, and it does provide some screening vegetation.
Well, you're out of jurisdiction on the property for wetlands or anything like
Yeah.
that.
That's correct, yes.
Setback.
But we have this, and we have the issue of the fire pit too.
Yeah, what are we going to do about the fire pit? I didn't ask Tyler that too, but
Well, I can't ask you for permits for it, and I don't even frankly know where it is located on the property, but at the end of the day, you're going to require us to get a certificate of occupancy if the board would approve it, so you have to get your certificate of, we have to get our certificate of occupancy in any event, so whatever needs to be done to either legalize that structure or remove that structure will have to be done prior to getting a certificate of occupancy.
right, but how does that affect our decision that we're going to make on this?
I don't think it'll be affected at all. It either is a compliance structure, and it very well might be. I didn't personally inspect it, but it will either have to be conforming or not conform, or removed, basically.
Okay.
Or we'll
If we
deal
were
with
to,
it.
if we could condition that get addressed, right?
Yeah, that'd be legalized.
Yeah, I think
Or
you could have a
remove.
condition that says,
Yeah.
that you'll legalize it or remove it as required by the building department without further relief from the zoning board.
Okay.
And I'd like to make s'more. We'll have one s'more party. If we have to remove it, I'll have my kids over there. They'll love it.
Thank you, Andy. Barry, would you like to close? Oh, is there anybody in the public? Sorry. Matt, anybody online?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then for the application of Terrence O'Connell at 9 Madison Drive in Montauk, tax map 300-068-02-14.1. Make a motion to close the public hearing and public record.
Thank you.
I
I concur as well. Thank you.
I-
Okay, next we have Jessica Wayman at 1 Squires Path in East Hampton, Suffolk tax map number 300-157-3-16. The size and location is 26,729 square foot at 1 Squires Path, East Hampton, Suffolk tax map number 300-157-03-16. The description is to allow an accessory structure greater than 200 square feet to contain a bathroom. relief sought, one variance of 334.5 square feet from 255-11-23B of the town code is required to allow the existing 534.5 square foot accessory building to remain with a bathroom where 200 square foot is the maximum allowable. The zoning district is B residence, zone X flood zone, secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
We have an affidavit of service and posting reflecting that the mailing was done on the 14th of July, 2022, and the posting was done on the 15th of July, 2022, and the paperwork appears to be in order.
Thank you. Tyler, my report. So this is a corner lot. First posting, it was properly posted on both streets. I have a photo of each one of them. Tyler. Yep, there's the second one. Now you're looking into the residence, and straight ahead in front of that vehicle, you'll see the accessory structure that we're talking about, and that's the main residence to the left. There's just a shot over to take a look at the neighboring house that you see beyond there. So this is the garage portion of the accessory structure. Walking in towards the back, there's other photos that I have, but you can see a separate roof that's attached to this structure. So I'll walk through the gate and so here you go. This is the garage, and you'll see there's a studio there. In that round window is where the bathroom is where the bathroom exists. Again, I have another photo of that. That's the location of where the bathroom is. There's an outdoor shower on that side of the building. Taking a look at the relative between the garage and the bathroom. Now this is behind that accessory structure. You have the pool that's on the survey, and I'm just going to walk around. That's the rear of it. And that's the other side of it. And then, yep, go ahead. And then Tyler, you can then looking back from the back near the pool to the main residence. I think that's it.
Where was the shed? The shed that's on the survey, that was
Attached to the garage.
attached to the garage there. I thought you had a photo.
Of which one?
What they're calling the shed. Is that next to that round window to the bathroom?
Of this one here?
Yeah.
On the survey you're talking about.
Yeah.
Let me just pull that up.
So that whole structure is what's on the survey called garage, right?
Yeah, but I don't see that shed there. That shed, we're looking at a 2017 survey?
Yeah, 3/9/2017.
We can ask the applicant when we get
Yeah,
there.
I think
Do we have the applicant here? Hi, Madeline.
Good evening, Madeline Van John, Tarbert and Leicester, representing Jessica Wayman. Quickly, just regarding the shed, I think it was more of a sort of a lean-to structure attached to the outside. I'm not 100% sure it's still there because we submitted this a
Yeah, it
while
doesn't
ago.
look like that. It was theirs.
Yeah, whatever it wasn't accessible from inside the building. It was just sort of tacked on the outside. So if it is or isn't still there, it's not really part of the structure. It's just attached to it.
So, but interesting is if we're going to approve a survey with a shed on there and it's not there, then we need an updated survey.
Yeah, I mean, if that's a condition, we can get you an updated survey. Or we can go out there and get pictures and see what's going on with that.
Yeah, we don't want to approve
Yeah.
a survey that's not correct though, right?
Right, of course, yeah. I wasn't aware that it was taken down if it was, but
Right. Thank you.
So basically what is going on here is that there was a finished study that was built attached to the garage by building permit and CO in 1967. And that isn't something that would be approved now, but apparently it was allowed back then to have a finished study attached to a garage. And there was a CO for when my client bought the property, there was a CO for a garage with study attached. And she didn't have any information as to whether the bathroom was legal or not at that time. Because there was no floor plan on the CO. It wasn't until we foiled the full file later on when we saw what was going on that the original plans did not have a bathroom and the prior owner added it in at some time. So it basically functions as a pool house because that side of the building, as you saw, is adjacent to the pool. Then it's just attached to the garage. It was discovered when she had to get a building permit for replacing windows and then went to get a CO and then discovered that this bathroom had never been approved. There was just study attached to garage listed on the CO.
That was in 1967, you said?
Originally, the building permit and CO was in 1967, and then there was another CO issued in 1987, which again listed garage with attached study. And she purchased the property, I believe, in 2017 when that survey is from. So in terms of, appearance impact to the neighborhood, the overall structure is under the allowable 600 square feet for an accessory structure. So, legally the whole building could be a garage or something like that. So appearance wise, it doesn't change what could be there. And there could be a pool house somewhere else on the property. It's just, this is already here and it's connected. So it seems like a better use of
But even if it
space.
was a pool house with the bathroom, it would exceed the pool house size limit.
It does because it's attached and it's already there. So that's why we're applying for the variance. Yes, if we built a new pool house as of right, it would have to be about 60 square feet smaller. But there wasn't really any real way to hack it off in a way to remove just 60 square feet. So that's kind of why we wound up here. And I'm sure you saw on the property, there's a large man-made pond that occupies the entire side of the property. So even though it has a pretty big, well, not pretty big, but it's a usable lot area, but a lot of it is taken up by that pond. So you don't have quite as much space to put things as you might like to. And there are other municipalities, I know East Hampton Town doesn't allow it, but in East Hampton Village, for example, you can have a pool house that is connected to a garage. So it's not a completely unusual concept. And I know there have been a few variances that have been approved. It's not new construction. We're not looking to build, if we were looking to build a new pool house, we wouldn't come and ask for a variance to build it 60 square feet larger than it's allowable. It's simply because the structure is already there. And there's no real way to remove 60 square feet. And even then it's still attached to the garage. So that's what we would have to address. So.
Yeah, you're asking for 334 variance,
334.5
square feet variance.
Um,
The entire accessory structure is 534 feet?
right, but that does include the garage. So 276 square feet of that is garage. So the study with the bathroom is 260 square feet. So it's only 60 square feet above what would be allowed for a pool house. It's just the issue is that it's attached to the garage, which is not something that's contemplated in the town code. I was just saying there are other codes that allow that sort of thing. So it's not a completely unusual concept.
Can I ask, when was the bathroom added to the structure?
That I'm not sure, sometime between 1987 and 2017 when my client purchased it. That's between the last CO and when we know it was there, so.
So trying to understand the nexus here is your client bought a house with a legal bathroom and that's the nexus for approval?
Well, that's not the nexus for approval. I'm just explaining how it transpired, because the CO listed studio attached
Right, so what's
to
the
garage.
uniqueness? It seems like a tall ask, so.
Right, I guess the uniqueness is that, it exists here and it's only the pool house portion of it is really only 60 square feet larger than allowable. The real uniqueness here is that it's attached to the garage, but I guess the uniqueness is that we'd like to keep it attached to the garage rather than leaving this entire structure, removing the bathroom and then building another pool house somewhere else on the property. I mean, we'd be willing to agree as a condition that there would be no other pool house built on the property. If that, if that would be something that would help, but we just think that it would be, the nexus really is that it's going to minimize impact to the neighborhood by keeping everything in this structure where it is, rather than building more structures.
Right, but one of the reasons for the code where it is now, not having a situation like this is potential, could be a potential living space, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, we'd agree to any conditions regarding that. It's the intention is not for it to be a living space. So if there was, East Hampton Village that allows the connections, they have inspections, things like that, covenants filed that it would not be a living space, we would be amenable to something like that.
yeah, that doesn't have much
This
teeth.
isn't in the
Right.
village.
Somebody can put a bed in there at any point.
No, I understand, but future potential for illegal activity isn't really, anybody can always do something that they're not supposed to do with what they have on their property. So,
That's one of the reasons why the code specifies the square footage, so they can't easily be converted into a guest cottage or additional space. This could, as mentioned by the chair, have a very easy conversion into a much larger and usable space. It could be considered a potential guest cottage or sleep space, or it could be uses that are not allowed under the current code. So the fact that you have the pool house only being 260 some feet and being only 60 feet over, once it's attached to another structure, that's really not a viable reason for us to consider it. It's part of something much larger, 560.
no, I understand the issue, but just, in general, it isn't necessarily grounds to deny a variance just because somebody could do something illegal in the future. I mean, anybody could do anything with their property that they shouldn't be doing. We can't anticipate what that would be, but, we would be amenable to any conditions, covenants that anybody saw fit to make sure that it stayed the way it's supposed to stay. We're just kind of stuck because it was built this way, and it was just an unusual thing that it was actually that back in 1967, they allowed you to have finished space attached to a garage, which we wouldn't be in this situation if someone got a permit, tried to get a permit for that now, because that's just not an option. It's not something they would issue, but it was legal back then. So that's how we wound up in this situation.
Yeah.
Okay, questions?
I have none.
Barry?
It's legal, but we don't know when the bathroom went in. So. No further questions.
Okay, thank you.
Well, they bought the house.
They bought the
It was illegal when they bought the
Yeah.
house.
Tyler?
Good evening, I'm Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department. So the parcel is located on the northeast corner of Stephen Hans Path and Squires Path in East Hampton. The project before the board is to allow a continued existence of an approximately 64.5 square foot bathroom to remain in an existing 534.5 square foot accessory structure. According to the building plans, the bathroom is accessible through the study portion of the accessory structure. The bathroom is not accessible directly from outside through its own outdoor entrance or through the garage. The structure as a whole exceeds the 200 square foot maximum allowable for pool houses. Variances on pool house size limitations are uncommon in front of the zoning board. Out of 16 applications that the planning department was able to locate, that were asking for relief from pool house max GFA since 1998. Only 6 appear to have been granted approval. All of those are detailed to some degree in the assessment. I'm not going to go over every one, but you can see the salient details of some of those approvals. The board should examine this variance very closely and possibly compare it to the other approvals that the ZBA has granted in the past in order to determine if they feel that the requested variance meets the standards and how the proposal looks in light of the town code requirements that small structures less than 200 square feet be the maximum allowable for plumbing. Is often cited that this provision of the town code is in order to prevent accessory structures from becoming habitable spaces without proper permitting for artist studios or accessory apartments, which would be allowed to have plumbing. The accessory structure that the bathroom is within contains the garage, which is walled off from the rest of the building, but also contains the study, which the bathroom is taking access through. This raises the question on the purpose of the bathroom and if it can be considered a pool house or not. The study and the bathroom, which are accessible through the same entrance, make up a combined approximately 256 square feet of floor area, which would still be over the 200 square foot maximum for a pool house, even if they were separate from the garage itself. So ultimately, there's a bit of history for the board to look over as far as what you've done in the past, over the past 25 years or so. And then obviously looking at the specific requirements of this application, the history of this one as well. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Tyler?
I don't.
No. Thank you, Tyler. Madeline, anything in closing?
No, I just wanted to clarify that, the reason we're still calling it something what Tyler said, I just wanted to clarify the reason we're calling it a study is just because that's what the original permit was for. But the study as it is isn't defined in town code. So basically the current use is as a pool house, but we've just still been calling it a study on plans because that's what the original building permit was for. But we couldn't find any descriptions as to what actually was meant by that other than what's shown on the 1967 building permit, which kind of resembles a pool house. It's just got some couches and seating area. So,
What do we do about the survey?
we can get an updated survey,
We'll have to keep the record open for that.
if you want us to do that, we can. That it takes a while these days to get surveys with field work getting scheduled. But we can do that if that's what you'd like to do.
Okay. Yeah, surveys are tough these days, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, 2 months?
I would imagine that probably seems about right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Board could also,
What's that?
the board can make it an approval contingent on getting an updated CO.
Maybe we can do that too.
There's an approval.
That might be a good idea, Tyler. So we'll close the record and then make the
Whatever decision. we
make
make.
the approval contingent on a revised survey.
Okay. Yeah. Either way.
That match, yeah, that,
we're gonna have to get one for a CO. So.
correct. Okay, thank you. So therefore, I make a motion in the application of Jessica Wayman
Excuse
at
me,
one.
just 1 second, just for the record, we have 0 callers. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Anybody in the
Thanks, Ben.
public here? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot. Would you care to say? Yeah, come on up. Thank you. Good.
Hello.
Introduce yourself and your address, please.
Allowing me to talk. My name is Lisa Levitin, and I am the neighbor to the, what would it be? It would be to the east.
What's the number?
Number 3.
Right, okay,
Squires
I
Ave.
got you, one in
Okay.
there.
So I have a lot to say.
Okay, before you begin, do we have her name and spelling, Laura? You raise your right hand so I can swear you in? You
Yes.
swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks. So I've been watching the construction of this pool house since Jessica began it about 2.5 years ago. Jessica and I had multiple conversations, letting her know that this was illegal, what she was doing. I've watched her contractor Fausto put in the kitchen. I've watched them put in the shower and the bathroom. Whether the bathroom was, a bathroom was there originally, I don't know, but it's not on the CO. There's 2 COs here. When Jessica purchased the property in 2017 or 2018, she never got an updated CO. And there's absolutely nothing about a bathroom on these COs. So the last CO for this property is from 1989. Along with that, I've been disturbed quite a bit over the past few years because Jessica has been renting out the cottage or guest house. She's been renting it and naming it a guest house on her advertisements. I have copies of everything.
Would you be able to submit that to the record, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I have videos of her guest house or pool house already constructed, of her kitchen, of her plumbing in her kitchen, of her bathroom. She's had
When
multiple,
you talk about the kitchen, are you talking about is there a kitchen in the pool house?
yes, I have pictures of the kitchen
So
with,
In the
Plumbing.
structure we're discussing.
More
tonight.
than just a bathroom?
correct. Yes, it's been completely rehabbed. The whole garage has been
What's
completely.
the date of this layout? What's the date of this layout? Let me just see.
This is just showing a bath, study, and garage.
We have a layout with just a bathroom in it dated May 27th, 2021. Would this work have taken place in the last year?
It was taking place at least a couple of years ago. Yeah, I have videos, and I know her contractor, and I wouldn't be so upset about it if it wasn't so close to my master bedroom. In addition to this cottage, as she's been advertising for rent and then also for sale, because she then decided she wanted to sell her house, and she was advertising this garage as a cottage and a pool house. I wouldn't be so upset if it wasn't disturbing me, but it does. And she created a courtyard right in like there's doors to the front. There's like these garage doors that are facing the street on Squires Path, and then there's other doors that are facing my house. And there's a courtyard in front of that where she would hang out. There's even reviews from customers from VRBO and Airbnb, multiple reviews, by the way, from several renters that have rented from her multiple times. And there was even one review saying that she didn't even know that the owner would be living in this cottage. Had she known, she might not have rented the main house. So not only had Jessica been living there and her son living there, but she was also renting it out as well. So it's upsetting to me because it does disturb my peace, and it's just.
Do you know if the house is registered as far on the rental registry?
Probably. Yeah, this year she definitely straightened her act up, because I know that she was probably advised to do so, and she closed up the whole cottage or guest house and there's been no activity in the past season. Jessica lives in Colorado now. She rents out her house. It's been rented out since I think May, and the cottage hasn't been used since then. But before that, it was very disturbing to me as a neighbor, and she was entirely aware of my grievance with it. So very sad to say, I don't have a problem if she builds on the property, her property of a 200 square foot pool house, as there's plenty of room to do that. So I think she should do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you submit
else?
those documents that you have?
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah.
So we would leave the record open.
You want to submit the documents to Laura, please?
She has them already. Okay.
Thank you. Madeline, you want to, Matt, anybody else on the phone? Anybody else on the public?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, I mean, it is registered on the rental registry, and I know as of now, the whole property is rented to one tenant. I can definitely look at what's been submitted there regarding the past. I'm not, I submitted this application last summer, and now we're dealing with this. So I don't know exactly what happened in the past, but I will take a look at that. But as of now, it's properly on the rental registry, and it's rented to one tenant. And just regarding the proximity to the neighboring property, the structure does meet the setbacks for either a garage or a pool house. So you could, build in that location where it is. So it's not too close to the property line. We're not asking for any variances of that sort. So I'm not sure how that would affect disturbance of the neighbors, because it is far enough from the property line. And if there's anything else on the property that shouldn't be there, I'm not sure of any courtyard like that. If there's something that shouldn't be there, we would absolutely remove it. We're not asking for any variances for anything other than the structure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing and the record for Jessica Wayman at 1 Squires Path, East Hampton, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-157-3-16.
Second that.
I
I
concur.
concur.
Thank you. Next, we have Jason and Julian Hirsch at 56 Jacqueline Drive in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-176-5-1. And the size and location is 10,886 square feet at 56 Jacqueline Drive, Beach Hampton, Section 5 map number 1763 in Amagansett. The description is to construct a 133 square foot addition to the residence, demolition of an existing shed, the construction of an 82 square foot plunge pool, a 162 square foot pergola, 375 square foot of decking, a 40 square foot pool equipment enclosure, 36 square foot front door, roof overhang, pool fencing, and to install a new sanitary system on a parcel of land that contains beach vegetation and is within 150 foot of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420, and 12 variances in total are required. 11 variances from 255-430. Wetland setbacks are required. Variance of 96 feet, 47 feet, 46.9 feet, 41.4 feet, 37.1 foot, 24.9 feet, and 23 feet, 23 feet, 14.6 feet, and 6.1 feet to allow an existing wire fence to remain 4 feet, an existing AC unit to remain 53 feet, and to construct pool equipment 53.1 foot, an outdoor shower 58.6 foot, a pool deck 62.9 feet, a pool fence 75.1 feet, a plunge pool 77 feet, a pergola 77 feet, in addition to the residence 85.4 feet, and a roof overhang 93.9 feet from wetlands where a 100-foot setback is required, and a variance of 14 feet to allow existing clearing to remain 36 foot from wetlands where a 50-foot setback is required. One variance of 4.9 feet is required from 255-1110 dimensional regulations to allow the proposed pool patio to be located 15.1 foot from the side yard where 20 feet is required. And any other relief necessary from East Hampton Town Code. Zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10, and secret class is type 2. Council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
We do. We have an affidavit reflecting that the mailing was done on July 12th, 2022, and the posting was done on July 15th, 2022, and the paperwork appears to be in order.
Thank you. Okay, Ed, you want to go?
Tyler, you can help us with the photos? Sure. Thank you. This property is posted both on two places. It's on two roads. It's on both Central and on Jacqueline Drive. This is the posting on Central, and there's a driveway you can see there with the a vehicle parked there. This is one approach to the house off of Central. Next. Now I'm looking, I'm going to have several shots here going back and forth just to get a character of the neighborhood. This is an area we review many parcels in here, and you can see looking, I'm looking here westward. Next. Here's the second posting. This is the one off of Jacqueline Drive. On the survey, there is that walkway, which is described as a concrete, it's a pebbled walkway that comes out. We'll see that. And that's the approach there. You can see the vegetation in front of the property and the general look. Next. Here I'm looking down the other way. I'm looking down from, I'm staying down. This is looking, I guess the other one was east, this is west, but again, it gives you a general idea of the neighborhood. Next. Oh, that one's a repeat, I think. Well, anyway, no, it's not a repeat. It's just it's a better view of what's going on in that driveway. You see the breadth of the driveway, you see the house behind here. The entry is that we're going to be discussing, there'll be some photos of a covered entry that's directly beyond that vehicle. Next. Yeah, we can skip this. I know these are a little out of order. Sorry about that. Again, looking down, I'm looking here down Jacqueline towards the ocean beyond. Next. I don't know why these keep repeating, but next. Well, it's fairly much out of order here. I'm looking at it. I just wanted this supposed to be later But there's a fence that surrounds the property, and here's a picture of a portion of that fence next. That's going to be in discussion. There's an area that we're going to be having, there's a proposed IA system. I'm looking through that IA system out towards the road from here next. There was a discussion of we're now looking on the south side of the building. I'm going to walk my way around it. You see an air conditioning unit that's been mentioned in the TAM. Next. Come around the back. Again, I'm jumping around a little bit. I apologize for being out of order. This is the existing covered porch, and you can see slightly to the right is the shed to be removed or demolished. And there'll be an addition going, moving to the right in this photo. We'll have another shot at the side of the house. But the addition that's spec'd out in the TAM and in the survey is basically to the right of the structure we're looking at here. Next. This is, I'm back over on the north side of the house, and I can see the nose of the vehicle we were behind before, and beyond that is a stepping up to a walkway, but there's a proposed covered entry. Next. Again, sorry about these being so out of order, but this was to go with the other one. I'm looking through where this IA system is to go. So you see the nature of the vegetation, and you can see some of the dune structure below. Next. This is looking back on, I'm on the east side of the house, and I've turned, I see the fence to my left. I'm looking back through to the backyard. And again, you'll see that there's quite a bit of native sand there, although most of this area is in active use. Next. No, this is just turning slightly to another direction here. Next. We can go ahead. I don't know why these are repeating so much. Next. Here's a shed that sits to the side of where the construction is to be removed, and directly behind the shed there'll be an addition that's proposed for the property. Next. When I'm looking at that wall, you can see the shed, and in the left of the photo, to the right of the photo, is a wall that faces east that would be having this proposed addition placed here, foundation and addition. And again, slightly out of order, but here's that entry covered porch that's going to come up over it. So this is now on the north side of the house. We were on the reverse, on the far end of this here is where the addition would go. This covered entry is in this area. Next. Again, now we're looking out. I'm on the east side of the house, and I just wanted to get a feeling. It's hard to see here, but there is a rolling bit of dune, native dune here ahead of us, and this is an area that is calling for a certain amount of clearing to be left to remain open. It goes beyond what was originally allowed here. Next. And this just happens to be the house directly across the street on Jacqueline Drive. I'm looking at that. I think that's probably the end of it. I apologize for being out of order, but I think we covered the bases on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori? Announce yourself.
Lori Wiltshire for Land Planning Services.
You swear firm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
So we originally requested 12 variances for this application, but the revised survey that we submitted to you that's dated May 20th eliminates 5 variances and reduces the extent of 3 other variances.
Excuse me, May 20th of 22?
Yep. Submitted on May 27th of 22.
Say that again, Lori.
Does anybody have
The
that?
revised survey is dated May 20th of 22, and 9 copies were submitted to your office on May 27th of 22.
We have
I don't have it. You have it?
We have it,
Oh,
5/20/22.
We have.
Another search.
In the docs, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking in the packet.
Yep, it's showing the re-veg.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have it. It's right here.
Okay, great. So the proposed patio, the pool deck, the roof overhang, or you call it a covered entry, are no longer proposed. The side yard setback for the pool is no longer needed. The existing outdoor shower will remain in its current location. The existing fence that is 4 feet from the wetlands is to be removed. The pool equipment has been relocated around to the side of the house as opposed to behind the house near the AC unit. And that is now going to be 57.6 feet from wetlands. And the revegetation has been increased to now have the clearing line 47 feet from wetlands where 50 feet is required. Proposed clearing after revegetation is 4,231 square feet, where 10,886 square feet is allowed. This creates a sizable buffer, along with the proposed scenic easement and the IAOWTS upgrade, significant drainage. All of this will mitigate any impact from the compact proposal to build a second full bathroom for a family of 4. The Plunge Pool is a prefabricated fiberglass soak, SOAKE, brand pool that will be 2 feet deep and sit on grade. That is the exhibit number 1 attached to the packet that I handed out right before. It's on the counter. The soak pools. The pool filtration. No excavation is required except for the piping for the pool equipment. This will take place behind the silt fencing, so it will not impact the wetlands. The pool filtration involves ionization of salt water, which will eliminate any potential chemical interaction with the wetlands. There are over 16 existing swimming pools in the immediate area. 5 received wetland setback variances. 3 are within 67 feet of wetlands, and 4 others obtained administrative natural resource special permits. This is a tiny lot of 10,866 square feet with wetlands to the north and south. So the hardship is not self-created. Nothing can be built on the property without wetland setback variances. The parcel abuts a lot to the east that is 100% cleared and has a full-size swimming pool directly adjacent to the southern wetland pocket. That's visible in one of the aerial photographs attached to your packet. The property is not anywhere near a New York State DEC freshwater wetland, and that's shown on the environmental resource mapper, which is also attached to your packet. And finally, we attached 6 letters from the neighbors in support of this application. I will make myself available for any comments you have. Let's walk you through the packet quickly. The details on the swimming pool and how it looks when it's above grade, and the saltwater system is on page 1. The environmental resource mapper shows our property right on the corner of Jacqueline and it shows it in Jacqueline and Surf. And all those green pockets to the left and to the right are the freshwater wetlands mapped by the New York State DEC. There are none anywhere near our property. The next one is the photograph that includes the next door neighboring property with the much larger house, much bigger lawn, much bigger pool, and that pool is directly abutting the wetlands that we are requesting setback variances from. The following is the map of the 16 or more pools in the immediate area.
Can I just back up a little bit on the, where you're showing the DEC wetlands that you're showing? But we're seeing where the town has flagged wetlands.
Yep.
Is it not? So what's the point?
Well, the DEC only flags class 1 wetlands. They consider them to be extremely pristine and worthy of protection. They did not flag anything in the area.
I know, but the town of East
And
Hampton
town did.
does protect
The
wetlands.
town absolutely did flag these wetlands.
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
It's clear. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But I also wanted that so that no one said we need to submit the DEC permit because we're not going to have one. And the rest of this, the letters of support from the neighbors. My clients would like to say a word, and their architect is here if you would like to.
Well, we have, there's questions, the drawings we have on the record still show the deck and the things you're removing. Do you have a recap that you can give us on
So
the changes
all the
to the
Yes, and I did
variances?
submit revised building plans about a week after the surveys were submitted.
Let me just check the,
Wait a minute. What are they dated?
They're July 21st, we received them. Oh, no, we didn't.
Wait a minute,
That's wrong.
what were the dates of the plans?
Yeah.
Again, mine go back to
I
2021.
have 6/21.
It's May 11th.
July 21, 2021, received?
No,
No,
that's
it's a cover
the
letter.
previous one.
No, these, I'm talking about this.
They're looking at,
May 31st of 2022,
May, the plans.
the plans.
Yes. No, you're looking at the docs.
Okay,
Yeah,
hold
they're
on.
probably there.
You got them?
Okay, here's it, okay, that's something from 2022. All right.
Okay, so you want me to walk you through the changes again?
Is it in your cover, are they all in the cover letter? I think I just found the cover letter from,
Are the changes in the cover letter?
you,
They should be, yeah. I'd have to go find it.
Well, in other words, we got to know what the variance, you're
Yeah, you have to
eliminating
tell-
the
the
variances. you're
update
Okay, so,
on the
changing.
so
variance.
we're eliminating wetland setback
Right, but
variances.
I think we should have a document that shows us that, right?
I can submit this at the end of the
Okay,
year.
it's fine.
are you reiterating the new variances, the lesser variances?
Yes.
In that, okay.
In math, no, we would have to do that, I'll do it as a separate submission in
When
terms
was-
of math.
This is very hard when this.
Well,
happens this way.
it is in the cover letter, but the proposed patio is no longer proposed.
I don't see that in your cover letter. Okay.
Well, it was, it stuck out towards the wetlands from the existing porch, and that's no longer proposed. The pool deck is no longer proposed. The roof overhang in the front of the house, or you call it a covered entry, is no longer proposed. They've all been eliminated. The pool deck was supposed to extend out towards the side yard,
Mhm.
and it didn't meet the 20-foot setback, so we've eliminated that. It's now a planter on the new survey. So the variance for the pool deck side yard setback is no longer required. The existing outdoor shower is not to be moved, although I'm not sure it's on a current CO, so we'll need to give you the exact dimension, but that's going to remain 57.6 feet from wetlands. And that's the pool equipment, sorry.
And that'll be connected to a dry well?
Yes, there's extensive drainage on this
I see,
plan.
I see it. I see it.
Extensive. They went to real extremes, including rain barrels and drainage fields because of the groundwater, depth to groundwater. The pool equipment has been relocated to be 57.6 feet from wetlands. The revegetation, it makes it so the edge of clearing would now be 47 feet from wetlands where 50 is required. And that's the difference from the original application. So basically, we read the TAM, we discussed it as a team, we made these changes to eliminate variances, reduce the extent of variances, and compact this project into a tiny little project at this point. It's basically what they need, family of 4, they need another bathroom and a closet, and they're going to speak to that themselves. The little plunge pool, this is a whole new animal in terms of swimming pools. And we're seeing a lot of this now coming forth. In the past, there was a lot of objection to swimming pools because they required excavation, which can cause siltation, which can cause runoff into wetlands and disturb that ecosystem. These new pools are completely what's the word I used?
contained.
Self-contained, prefabricated. So they come in on wheels and they get set on the ground. And then the water that goes into them is salt water that's deionized, and therefore there's no chlorine. So we no longer have chemicals and we no longer have excavation. And so I would say that with the revegetation that's shown here and the fact that this pool is 75.3 feet from the wetlands, this is not that much different than the application of Morsch on Hog Creek, where they offered significant revegetation in order to have the swimming pool 75 feet away. But in Morsch, they didn't have these safeguards of prefabricated pool and no chlorine. So this is a really big step up for swimming pools that makes them essentially have no impact on wetlands whatsoever, because they're actually no closer to the wetlands than the existing porch is now. Nothing, I mean, the only thing it is the pool equipment in the IA, but we don't need a variance for that.
Any questions for Lori?
I just have not a question, just remember Johan's photos for the location of the IA system showed a highly vegetated area, and this property does contain sensitive dune land and beach vegetation. The TAM has suggested, have you given any thought to abandoning the proposal for the plunge pool so that the sanitary system has the potential to be situated closer to the residents, meeting a better wetland setback?
The IA could be moved closer to the wetlands. I mean,
No,
to the
we don't want
pool.
You'll need you still need a 20-foot separation from
We
this.
do have room to move that IA system further to the, closer to the house. That can be done, but as you know, IA systems are self-contained. There's absolutely no leaching going on. It's just plain water. There's more than 20 feet between the pool and the septic system. But I should say about the comment you made about the clearing. So
Yeah, it's
If you
highly
look-
vegetated area where the IA system is proposed.
yeah, it's not. It's completely cleared. There is a vegetated area, but you have to follow this clearing line, the existing clearing line, which is not called out very well. How do I tell you how to find it?
Sort of dotted dash
Oh,
line.
I can, here, it's this. Yes, there we go. Thank you, Tyler.
So there was an expanse, looking
was the-
towards, if you look at the survey, lot 69 says on the survey down at the bottom left. Is that where the photos were showing just very clean sand?
No, that's over where the revegetation's going. That's the clean sand. Where the green shaded area is,
Right, because,
that's our revegetation. And that's the clean sand.
okay,
And mind you, my clients are certainly willing to revegetate disturbed areas. For example, when we put in the proposed drainage field, that will have to be cleared. And then we can revegetate that as well. You just simple condition of American Cape beach grass in any area disturbed outside of the area to be revegetated. And they would be fine with that. Also, there'll be gutters, leaders, and dry wells, obviously leading to rain barrels, it looks like. Yeah, if there's any other questions, you let me know.
And you said the shower would have an added.
The shower would, sorry.
it's showing it's connected.
To the drainage, yes.
Showers has a connection pipe to it.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions?
This proposed entry to the crawl space. Do we have any notion of what kind of impact that may have here? I'm just looking at it. It wasn't on the first set of drawings.
That is correct. That is a proposed cellar entrance that is being relocated because the pool equipment is now going to go where that cellar entrance was. There'll be a small amount of clearing needed for that, but that comes right off of the concrete walkway. So that can be installed and then revegetated very easily.
And we don't anticipate a setback problem with that. I don't see anything on this drawing.
There are no setbacks for cellar entrances.
Okay.
Okay. Lori, you want to step up? Say your name and address.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Julian Hirsch. This is my husband, Jason,
Good evening.
and we are the owners of 56 Jacqueline Drive in Hammonton.
Yeah, you want to raise your right hand? You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I'm a lawyer.
Oh, you're a lawyer. No,
I'm a lawyer.
you don't have to.
I'm the lawyer.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. My connection to Amagansett began in the summer of 1975. I was born in July, and my parents immediately decided that they wanted to spend summers with their growing family on Mako Lane. And that is what we did for the next 15 years of my life. When my husband Jason and I started our family many years later, it was our greatest hope that one day we would be able to purchase a home in the dunes so that we could show our children just what a special place that it is. So in 2020, when we did purchase our home, we were overjoyed. Last summer was our first full summer in our house. And since purchasing it in the fall of 2020, we have traveled from our primary residence outside of Boston at least one weekend every month in the off season to be here. We love every minute of living here and pinch ourselves daily that this is actually our home. When we purchased our home, our sons were 9 and 13 years old. Our younger son is now entering middle school, and our older son, who is now 6 feet 3 inches tall, has just finished his freshman year in high school. And while our house is everything we could have imagined, in so many ways, we are here today to respectfully request approval for a few practical adjustments to our home. For my husband and I, as Lori mentioned, we would love to have our own bathroom. Right now, the four of us share one half bath, which is about 3 feet by 3.5 feet in size, and one full bath, which is about 6 feet by 4 feet 9 inches in size. In addition to a second full bathroom, we would love to have a closet. Right now, we use the closet in our home office. Both of us work full-time, and spending from mid-June to the beginning of September full-time working together at the house. There are sometimes logistical problems that we are facing when one of us is inevitably on a Zoom call for an extended period of time in the room where the closet is. In addition to a full bathroom and a closet, as Lori said, we would love a small modular prefabricated plunge pool so that our family can cool off at the end of a long day at the beach, or at the end of a hot afternoon working from home outside on our patio. We recognize the tremendous effort that this board makes to preserve the integrity and the natural beauty and the majestic nature of the dunes. And we have worked diligently with our land planner and architect to design a proposal that we believe does not undermine this board's efforts in any way, and is entirely consistent with the ethos of the very special neighborhood that we are lucky enough to now call our home.
In terms of the existing parts of the house, is that going to be renovated?
What's there now is not being touched. We're
All right,
just,
because the architectural plans are calling out for windows and doors. They're tagged on those. Are you changing those out?
we can,
They're tagged. I usually don't see tags on existing windows, so it looks like I would interpret that to be anticipating to be changed. So the question that I'm leaning towards is, in some applications like this, if the existing house does get renovated as part of our pool ends up being renovated, it could be renovated beyond the 50% allowable to push you into a FEMA regulation. And I just want to make sure that doesn't happen here. So I don't, if, that's why I'm saying the drawings right now look like there's anticipation to renovate.
but we don't have any plans to renovate.
Okay.
I defer to them on the more complicated
All right.
aspects of your commentary, but we don't have any plans to do any renovations. We love our house just the way it is.
Okay, no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, the plunge pool is 6 by 10 or 8 by 10? I see two different numbers.
6 by 10. Oh, okay. I do have this piece of information that was given to me by Eric Woodward, who's the principal architect on this project. Basically, he said that lateral additions that do not constitute substantial improvement, the NFIP requirements concerning new construction are not triggered.
Right, but there might be you're gonna check, because if you're changing windows, and I get that, but might push you into a HERS situation with the town, and if so, then you're gonna be required to meet HERS possibly, so you gotta look at that requirement. I'm not sure if it does or
We
not.
can look at hers before we get a building
But if it
permit.
does, but that makes it more of a substantial renovation too. I'm just concerned.
But we're not doing HVAC. We're not taking anything, we're not taking any wallboard off. We're not doing any substantial renovation at all inside the existing house.
Right.
they've already done all the painting and everything that they're going to do. So it's pretty simple what they're doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. How you doing, Rick?
Good evening again, Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department. Okay, so the application in front of the board is proposing to construct an addition to the residence, a plunge pool, decking, pergola, outdoor shower, and to install an upgraded sanitary system. The applicant is proposing to demolish a legally existing shed from the property, which is currently located in the area where the addition and the pool are proposed to be located. The applicant's also proposing a 23.5-foot wide scenic easement with a 1,344 square foot revegetation of an area which was cleared without the benefit of an NRSP or variances for clearing within 50 feet of a wetland. The applicant went through some revisions since the assessment was originally completed by Lenny, removing some of those variances and also addressing some of the concerns that were raised. Hopefully I'll have all of them, but I apologize if I miss some of the details. The planning department considers this application to be a poor candidate for most of the variances requested. The subject property is undersized for B resident zoning district, consisting of only 10,886 square feet. The proposed improvements on the parcel are extensive, and the board should consider whether this parcel is suited for any further development. Although undersized, the size and shape of the property is typical for this neighborhood. The current legally existing outdoor shower on the parcel appears to be roughly 65 feet from the wetlands to the south of the property. Yes, legally, yes. The applicant is proposing a new outdoor shower, which is now proposed to be in the same relative location. Previously, it had been proposed to be located further south, and the applicants addressed that concern. They have also included dry wells and drainage field for the proposed structures, including that outdoor shower. The location of the shower and runoff control were both brought up in the assessment, and they were addressed. I'll bring up the dry wells in a little bit, but we'll move on for the time being. The proposed plunge pool is small in size. However, it is considered a swimming pool, and thus double setbacks for side yard must be met for the pool and pool decking. Pool decking had been proposed previously at 15.1 feet from the property line, where 20 feet is proposed. It looks like they're now proposed at 20 feet. There is a notation of 19.6 feet, but I believe that's to the fencing. I think the decking is now conforming, so that issue was resolved. Still in close proximity to the edge of wetlands, 75-ish feet for the pool itself. It is a concern, but the side yard setback variance was removed. The proposed clearing variance has changed fairly significantly since the assessment was written. It appears that from the 2015 certificate of occupancy that the property was mostly vegetated at that time. Upon examining the town's GIS aerials, it can be stated that this clearing occurred at some point between 2016 and 2018. I can bring those up if you're interested in seeing them. According to the town records, the property came into possession of the current owners in 2021, and thus likely did not carry out the clearing themselves, however, are still responsible for correcting that violation. The property appears to have been cleared within 13 feet of the edge of wetlands, and the applicants are now proposing to revegetate the majority of that clearing, and it again is offering that scenic easement at the rear of the property line. The remaining clearing will still require approximately a 4-foot clearing variance, although it seemed like it was 3 feet. I wasn't able to get a super accurate measurement, but for the most part, most of that clearing will be revegetated according to the new plans. The applicant should speak to the proposed location of the sanitary upgrade. Sanitary upgrades do not require variances from wetland setbacks if they meet the same or better setbacks than previous systems. And the application as proposed would not require a mandatory upgrade of the sanitary system, so it can be viewed as a mitigation measure for the project. Mostly, I would imagine, for the addition to the residence. However, there do appear to be better locations for the sanitary system, as was sort of mentioned previously. It should be noted that any other location for the sanitary system would require additional clearing unless it's closer to the house. Thus, placing the system in its existing location does minimize the additional new clearing that would be required. If the applicant were to abandon the proposal for the plunge pool, the sanitary system has the potential to be situated slightly closer to the residence. I measured it out. It's pretty much exactly at 20 feet, which is required by the health department. So if you remove that, you could move it up at least additional 10 feet from the foundation of the house, which is, probably 15 feet from where it is now. The upgrade is currently proposed to be located 39 and a half feet from the edge of wetlands, where a new system would be required to meet 150-foot setback. The wetlands to the south consist of a high bush blueberry, maleberry, as well as other woody vegetation and saturated soils. They increase biological diversity and provide valuable habitat for wetland-dependent plants and animals within an area of dense residential development. The wetlands also provides the important benefit of attenuating floodwaters and the dissipation of pollutants prior to groundwater recharge. The depth of groundwater in this area, as shown on the survey, to be located about 3.9 feet. The applicant has submitted a sanitary plans that show that they will meet that 2-foot separation to groundwater as is normally required. And the applicant provided a profile of the swimming pool that again shows meeting a 2-foot depth to groundwater. The planning department recommends that if the board is to approve any portion of this project, that a scenic easement be established. The applicant is proposing a 23.5-foot scenic easement across the rear of the property. The planning department had included a sketch, which essentially was over the existing, which went up and around the existing clearing line as well. Part of the issue is that with the new submission is the drainage field that would
Right,
be
that's
would
going
be
to
in
interfere
that
with the
area.
easement, right?
Right, and that sort of speaks to, I think, the scale of the project. While the clearing is being addressed, there also would require new clearing in order to put in this drainage field, which is also in close proximity to wetlands. If this amount of work is required in order to install a swimming pool, a property, what I would say is not fit for a swimming pool. You have to do additional clearing. It's close to wetlands. You have to install your drainage control in close proximity to wetlands, and you have to clear in order to do that. It just doesn't fit the constraints of the property as it is today. And additionally, just to mention offhand, the New York State DEC essentially has no wetlands marked in this area of Beach Hampton for a wide area. The way the DEC originally mapped their wetlands was doing aerial flyovers and marking them on a map, and then drawing circles around that to say, these are where areas where wetlands could possibly be. So it's not exactly the most accurate method of determining what or is not a wetland, which is why they're not in jurisdiction of DEC wetlands in this area. But other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Tyler?
No, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Tyler.
How are you, Rich? Rich Anderson for Eric Woodward Architect. Just you swear firm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do swear. Thank you. In regards to the drainage, it's mostly due to the roofing of the existing house. It's all captured, most of it by rain barrels. I do not want to disturb the vegetation. That's why I did all these rain barrels on the back side of the house. Our client was like, well, do we really need all these rain barrels? And I eliminated one rain barrel, and that's why that is a drainage field. It's mostly for the roof, which now has been dictated by the town here to capture all the rainwater. Previously, it was old gutters running right into the sand. And so we're trying to facilitate that with this drainage system. The pool is a self-contained system. It does not need a drywall. So the pool has no effect on the drywall system. It's for all the roof runoff and for the drywall for the shower. And then the other rain barrels cover the other corners of the house. So I try to do as minimal drainage, underground as possible. I really didn't want to destroy the vegetation around the front of the house on the west side of the house. That was, our purpose is, trying to mitigate most of that drainage. Lori's asked me if it can go in front of if we leave the septic system as is and then put the drainage, we do have that 10-foot buffer. I can put a linear, I can stretch out the drainage and put it in front of the drainage system, in front of the septic system. I think that could work as well. Trying not to go in that area where I have it as situated right now.
Between the septic and the pool?
Yeah, and I think I can squeeze it in there, and because we got rid of the one proposed deck, so we did not go back to the health department to relocate the septic system, so that's why there's an extra 10 foot of buffer right now. So I can put that, the drainage.
I mean, that would
In
help.
front of that.
I would think. Okay.
So
I have a question about, thank you, about this plunge pool. I think Lori stated that the revised plan show is going to be set above the ground. How deep is this pool and what is it going to do?
2 feet above ground and 2 feet below ground, so it cannot go into the water table, so it will be 2 feet above the water
So
table.
it's going to be set 2 foot below the ground. And it's a 4-foot total depth of the
Correct.
structure. This comes in as a prefab.
They bring it in with the crane and they will just
Yeah.
drop it right in. It's pretty amazing.
Right. Okay. But that's also, if it's going to bring it in with a crane, we're going to have some questions about protocol if this was to be approved, just to make sure that the crane doesn't do more collateral damage than we want to see on the site. So
Correct.
obviously,
Well,
there'll be some question about that.
they would lift it over the house. They have a
Whatever.
pretty.
I understand it, but I'm just saying, you understand that the sensitivity of the lot is going to raise these questions every time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Understood.
So, I mean, I heard the word extensive in the TAM, and that's from the original TAM before we revised this project. When we had all those extra decks and patios and covered roofs and things, it was an extensive project, and we heard that, and we compacted this thing into a very small footprint. I think it's possible to eliminate the clearing for that drainage field. I think we can move the septic system closer to the pool. There's 10 feet there, as he said.
But if you move it closer to the pool, Rich's solution, it'll hurt his solution of moving that
Well,
drainage.
then the drainage could go behind it, which would be a better solution. I'm just thinking this through right now. So you move the septic 10 feet closer, and then you put the drainage in the cleared area over here where the IA is now. And that way, we can revegetate over it. It's just drainage. The other thing that I wanted to say is, as Tyler mentioned, this septic system is actually less, but it's less, the existing septic system is closer. As you can see right now, there's a 36-foot setback pointing to one of the leaching pools, which are shown as just very light rings in the area to be revegetated. So we are moving it back, and it will not be a leaching pool. It is a enclosed system, the IAs. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, Denise, you brought up dune land.
Yes.
And if you look.
Well, I'm bringing up the fact that the property is very sensitive to dune land.
It
and
is.
The whole property.
It is. And so the back is not dune land at all. Okay. And you can tell by the topography. If you look up at the front of the house, you'll see that it rises to a point of 10.4. That's a dune formation there. There's one to the left where it rises up to 11 feet right on the corner of the property. The corner of Central and Jacqueline. Right, it's right, not on the property, it's off the property. It's 11-foot max, and that's a high point for a dune formation. And then there's another one over off of Jacqueline that's 10.6. That's another dune formation, and none of those are proposed to be disturbed in any way by what we're proposing here. So I think in the end, what you have with this project is a huge improvement. You're going to get your wetlands buffer, you're going to get your revegetation, you're going to get your IA system, you're going to get gutters and leaders and rain barrels that don't exist now. Moving a 4-foot fence basically out of the wetlands. I just think it's going to be a really big improvement. And I think that if the project were denied, then none of these things are going to take place, and it's going to stay just as it is. So it doesn't make sense to deny it. So that's my final word. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Are we
Waiting for additional information at this
We're going to
point?
be waiting for information. What do we do about the
I think-
some of the changes that were coming up.
Yep, we're going to go ahead and monkey with the septic system in the drainage field location and get you a revised survey to that effect. And we are going to list the variances that are now required so that the decision can be properly
How much
worded.
time do you think you need?
How quickly we get Saskis to turn around. Oh, Walbridge, oh, that was bad. Walbridge. A month?
2-3 weeks left.
All right, so we'll try a month. If I need
Say a
more
month,
time,
and if
I'll
you need
ask
more
for it.
time, you make sure you get a request in on time.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So
The public,
we'll
A month.
close the meeting and leave the record open for a month.
well, did we have the public?
No, anybody in the public?
Matt.
Matt, you up there?
Matt, any
Yes, we have one caller.
Okay, can you
And
identify?
I would like to mention to the caller right now, I'll give you a moment to mute your television so we don't get the feedback of the meeting through your phone, and then I will unmute you. Okay, let's go with last four digits of 4221.
Hello, caller, are you on the line?
I am. Thank you, and I'm not muted. It's Jane Meering, 32 Ocean Lane, Amagansett.
Hi, Jane, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Chairman, thank you, I do. I'm not, you've heard me before to this board on things around Beach Hampton. Also, my house is 2 blocks from Jacqueline Drive. So I'm not really here to talk about the size of the project, or actually find this house very authentic to Beach Hampton. It's a 1-story, it's not that big. The additions are modest. Welcome Hirsches to the neighborhood. And also on plunge pools, I would love to see more plunge pools being options here than some of the bigger pools that we see. All I want to do tonight is speak to the landscape that exists currently on the Jacqueline Drive side of the house that sort of sweeps down towards, south. And I think some of it was just cleared up in the conversation that you all had. When I saw the line of clearing, that made sense to me. And then I saw this drainage field that was outside the line of clearing that would need clearing. And I just wanted to say that existence, and the applicant's agent just said it's not dune land, but I look at it as very authentic looking landscape and dune-ish land. And as you may know, this property to the south abuts a town-owned reserve property, and there's not that much left of this type of scrubby landscape left. And so to the extent that some of the things you're talking about tonight, to move the drainage field over that drainage line and actually protect that whole sweep that runs south on the property to the next line, I think would be so important to the character of the neighborhood. So that was really the point that I just wanted to make tonight. I'm glad to see the scenic easement, but it really is that whole view as you're looking from Jacqueline into that dune land and scrub that is really important. And then secondly, I didn't see in the public file the revegetation plan. I know you'll be all over that, but obviously the more native and the more authentic would be the happiest thing. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Matt?
That's it. 0 additional callers. Thank you.
Hey, Lori,
I
quick.
just wanted to say, was she asking that we make the scenic easement larger? I didn't hear clearly.
She was happy about the scenic easement.
Happy about the scenic
Happy
easement.
about it.
Okay, and the other thing that I'm willing to provide are all of these adjacent pool information about the variances that have been obtained in the neighborhood for pools and the admins and the existing pools that are just right next to wetlands.
Okay,
Would you like that for your file?
it's up to you.
1 copy? Or do I have to actually give you 9? It's this.
Give it to her.
One copy
One
is
is
fine.
mine.
Laura's having this one.
For the record, and any board member can go in and read it, Or does that have to be by PDF too? No, I have to copy it first, so it's going to come in with our resubmission. When we resubmit it with
You
our,
can do it, you can submit it with your resubmission.
Yeah.
PDF,
Yeah,
that's
written
fine.
records open for 30 days anyway. Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I already,
We
they're
have
attached to their.
Those are here.
Yep.
We close out?
We done?
Yep.
We done?
Do we have to keep it open because of it? For a transfer?
No.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
We don't have to, not anymore.
Okay, then in the case of Jason and Julian Hirsch of 56 Jacqueline Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-176-5-1, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting, but to leave the record open for an additional 30 days.
For written record.
Yes,
Written submission.
written records.
For written submissions. Thank you.
I'll second.
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Rich, good to see you again. Yes.
Tyler, I didn't have the updated survey, so can I keep that copy?
If you,
Yeah,
you can't talk
it's a
about it if
printed
the
copy,
record's closed.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
It's not an original. I didn't have a Lenny
Did we leave the record open?
No.
We actually did close.
Um,
We also even post videos onto the web.
Say that again?
It wouldn't just,
She found photos that she was talking about before. The record's closed.
Sorry. I mean, is the applicant still here where they'd be able to?
I know,
agree or
I don't think we
disagree
could
to
do
the
this without
record?
the applicant
Yeah.
here.
I have the videos for just,
And you submitted other documentation?
yes.
Okay.
Photographs of the inside of this guest house I have. I'd like to email them to you.
Yeah, but at this point, we cannot
We're not going to be able to
Accept
accept it.
accept it.
Sorry.
The applicant's not here. We'll close the record and the public hearing.
That's a legal thing. We can't go.
we can't do that.
The whole hearing reopened.
Oh, I don't think the public can open the hearing. Only an applicant can. Right?
To my knowledge, that's true.
Well, at this point, we're unable to
I think
proceed.
your testimony's on the record. And I think we have to take it at that.
Okay. I've never done this before, so I'm wondering when is the decision made? How-
We have 62 days to make a decision.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we're going to move on to a work session. We have minutes of approval for July 19th, 2022.
Before we
We do.
Oh, wait a minute, we have administrative application, I'm sorry.
And we do?
Hearing.
Post-hearing decision.
No, we don't. We have a post-hearing decision.
Got resolutions.
Holy cow.
Holy mackerel.
We have a lot.
Post-hearing decision is, I'll read it into the record.
Thank you.
D&D Coochie LLC at 74 Queens Lane, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-145-05-22.1. The size and location is 16,021 square feet at 74 Queens Lane, Montauk Heights, map number 11, East Hampton. Description is to construct a fenced-in gravel-based facility for portable sanitary units, supplies, and vehicles on a parcel containing a legally pre-existing non-conforming single-family residence. The relief sought is a variance for a maximum number of uses pursuant to 255, 245, 1 and 2 of the Town Code to allow the subject property zone commercial industrial to be allowed a second use on the property as a commercial use. Zoning district is CI, Commercial Industrial Zone, X Flood Zone, and the seasonal class is type 2. Ed, I think you
Yeah, I'll start this. Then in reference to the application by Joseph Cucci, the board will remember that the hearing was on June 7th, 2022. The survey we worked from was from August 24, 2021. The applicant at that hearing was represented by Richard Whalen. This application sought a variance to 255-2-45, 1 and 2 to allow for a second use on a residential parcel currently zoned commercial industrial. The parcel has a pre-existing non-conforming residence on the south side of the property. Aerial photos show that before 2004, hold on, I just lost my place. 2004, the northern portion of the parcel, which is now cleared, had some form of vegetation present. Currently, that area is cleared and has been recently used to store portable toilets and several trucks associated with the portable toilet business. The applicant seeks the variance to allow for the second use on the property to continue storing the equipment, even though a second use is not allowed on a commercial industrial zone parcel. The applicant is currently in ownership of 76 Queens Lane, the adjoining parcel to the north, which figures into his overall plan for the use of 74 Queens Lane if the variance he is now seeking is granted by the board. A vehicle turnaround is planned for the limited space available on 76 Queens Lane that would facilitate the delivery and pickup of the portable toilets and the storage of the associated vehicles on the northern portion of 74 Queens Lane. Several appropriate questions were raised during the public hearing concerning this variance request. Current town code clearly does not allow for second uses on property zoned commercial industrial, so one option available to the applicant would be the removal of the residence, who could bring the lot into compliance. The applicant would like to preserve the house, which is currently occupied. Given the need for housing of this type in the town of East Hampton, the planning board, which reviewed this application before this zoning board review, recommended approval of the application, noting that some additional elements may be required, such as appropriate screening and fencing. It was also pointed out in the TAM and by the planning board that there are some 26 similar properties in the town that are zoned commercial industrial that also have residences on the parcel, and that the removal of the residence at 74 Queens Lane would eliminate housing for a working family. At the hearing, it was noted that the applicant has submitted a detailed plan of how the storage yard would function, stating that only cleaned and sanitized units and trucks would be stored at 74 Queens Lane. The issue of whether the proposed utilization of 76 Queen Lane to facilitate the storage areas on 74 might prove problematic in the future was addressed. The parcel has approved site and landscape plans in place that were granted more than 20 years ago, and they stated that usage on the parcel was to be, at that time, they stated that usage on the parcel was to be restricted to parking and storage of vehicles, such as automobiles, trucks, and boats. An application for a new site plan will have to be made that will address the proposed usage that will facilitate the storage space at 74. Any decision made here by the ZBA will obviously affect the application that is to be made at 76. Additionally, it is important to note that at this site, the residence located to the south of the lot faces other residential parcels on Queens Lane, whereas the cleared area behind the house is in contact with the commercial properties that line Springs Fireplace Road. The planning board recommendation put to one side for a moment, this board is to decide on its own whether the circumstances that exist at 74 Queens Lane warrant the approval of the requested area variance. Would the implications of an approval lead to a series of additional similar requests throughout the town? And would this approval, if it were granted, set a precedent or standard that might be used to justify those future applications, were among the questions that were asked at the time. I personally choose to think that each case that is presented here in front of the ZBA is reviewed on its own merits, and that this particular application rises to a point where it deserves my approval. Given the location of the residence and how it fits in its neighborhood and the orientation of the proposed commercial area, the commercial storage area to the north, the commercial side of the house, which is the commercial side of the house, and the ownership by the applicant of the adjoining parcel at 76 Queens Lane with a proposed usage plan in place, I am willing at this time to approve this application.
Thank you. Denise?
Yes, the applicant is proposing a second use, which is a permitted use in a CI zone. However, because of a glitch in the code, because there is a pre-existing non-conforming residence already on the property, they are only entitled to one commercial use, which in this case is the residence. If you took away the house, it would be entitled to two commercial uses. And because this is classified as a residential property, the number of uses says residential properties get one use. The commercial use on this site has been going on and operating for over 15 years without site plan approval or ZBA action until now. The owner of the property does not want to force a local family to vacate the residence, and with the affordable housing crisis in the community, I am inclined to agree. The owner is simply trying to retain the residence and keep the commercial use. The nature of the building, called headquarters, is portable toilets. They are only on the Queens Lane property when they are clean. They are emptied, cleaned, and sanitized at the site of use. The owner has a Suffolk County license for liquid wastes and a New York State DEC transportation permit for portable toilets. They don't have waste in portable toilets when they are on the highway going back to Queens Lane. They are proposing fencing on the east side, and the planning board is also in favor of granting the variance. The TAM pointed out there are, as Member Johan already mentioned, 26 properties zoned CI with a residential use, and there are over 30 other commercially zoned properties with a residential use. I think we should communicate with the town board about the necessary changes needed in the town code. But for the purposes of this application, I am in favor of granting a variance for the maximum number of uses to allow the subject property zoned commercial industrial to allow a second use on the property as a commercial use due to the special circumstances that I have already stated.
Thank you. Terry?
Okay, I agree with some of that. I disagree with some of that. I disagree that it's a glitch in the code at 255, 245, 1 and 2. In the CI zone, there would be a second business use allowed. But however, the 255, 2-41, 1 also clearly states that, there could be a second use, although, except in the exact case that we have here today, which is a residential property, that it is limited to that use as the principal use and no additional commercial use. So I don't think it was a glitch in the code. That said, I am sympathetic to the whole situation that it has gone on here. It has been in use already for the past 20 years, as we said. And I guess what I agree with Member Savarese and my other members that this is something that the town board needs to address in moving forward. However, I think this particular situation is unique, and part of that is the shape of the property. When I look at it, 76 Queens Lane, it's like a triangle, and the way it leads into 74, it will all be behind the residence, which backs on, and that portion backs onto like Springs Fireplace Road. That's all commercial industrial. So that all fits, and the residence in the front of this, I think, is allowed. There will be proper screening. I know there's site plans out for the planning board for both properties, which need to be addressed, and I trust that they will do that. So in this case, because of the odd configuration of the properties adjacent to each other, I too am going to approve it. And I think the town board needs to address this.
Thank you. You guys did a wonderful job. I'm not going to add or subtract from it. I totally agree with you. I do agree that whether it's a glitch or not, the code could be improved to incorporate some of these homes into affordable housing projects. It's a smart idea. So
it's not being incorporated into affordable housing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Good, counsel?
Very good, thank you. That was really thorough, thank you.
All right, now we go to the minutes.
The minutes, are we up to the minutes?
Yeah.
They look
19.
great.
19.
So I'd like to make a motion for the draft minutes of the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals for July 19th to be approved.
I'll second.
I concur.
I concur as well, thank you. Now have a number of resolutions. Council has been extremely busy in the last week. Been busy reading them.
Good. So our first one, I'm sorry, do you want to announce?
The second one, though, is not on, shouldn't be on.
Second one is not on because there's
Recon is not on.
going to be a resubmit, right?
Oh, it's on the list? I didn't even, oh, yeah.
It was. It
Yeah,
was
that's not-
originally,
no, Yeah, we
yeah.
can't do that
All right, go ahead. We have Julia Spain and Paul Brochus.
unless you want to decide.
go ahead.
We have Julia Spain and Paul Brochus.
Yes.
At 27 Clamshell Avenue in East Hampton, Suffolk, that's number 300-74-05-15.
This is a determination that I drafted and circulated. This is an NRSP and variance strictly for wetlands. This property is the one located on Clamshell Avenue. This was a pretty straightforward application that had to do with the location of a generator. The board was unanimous in its decision, and I ask that this determination be adopted as written.
Thank you. This was in my territory, so I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution as written for Julia Spain and Paul Brochus at 27 Clamshell Avenue in East Hampton, Suffolk, tax number 300-74-05-15.
I'll second it.
Concur.
Concur.
Okay, we're going to skip over the next one, right?
Correct.
And we go to Julian and Jody Hinchin at 25 Seaside Avenue in Montauk.
So this is a determination that I drafted and circulated to the board. This is Seaside Avenue, Montauk, NRSP, and 5 variances, all regarding wetland setbacks. This is a resubmission of a prior design that the board did not receive favorably. So the redesign the board considered and found it much improved. It includes a CNR and a scenic easement, and I asked the board to adopt this determination as written.
Then I'd like to make a motion in the case of Leanne Jody Hinchin at 25 Seaside Avenue, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-32-04-37, that we accept the determination as written.
Your second.
I concur.
I concur. Next, we have Nicholas Nagler at 369 Cranberry Hole Road, Narragansett.
So this is a determination for that I circulated to the board. This is an NRSP only. This was the house that they're retreating on Cranberry Hill Road. The board voted 3 in favor and 1 against. Member Savarese did have reservations because no construction protocol was provided with respect to how the house would be moved, what equipment, etc. This is reflected in this determination, and I asked the board to adopt the determination as drafted.
Then I would like to make a motion in the case of Nicholas Nagler at 369 Cranberry Hole Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-128-01-25 to accept the determination as written.
Second.
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. Next, we have 43 Sandpiper LLC at 43 Sandpiper Lane in Amagansett.
This is the determination that I drafted and circulated to the board. This is for an NRSP and 2 variances from wetland setbacks. This is the Sandpiper Lane property, had very small additions of 1,100 square feet of first floor that was under an existing second story. Relatively minor changes, unanimously approved by the board. And I ask that this determination be adopted as drafted.
Did I do this?
Yeah, you do.
Okay, thank you. I forgot. And I'd like to make a motion in the case of 43 Sandpiper LLC, 43 Sandpiper Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-177-01-33 to accept the determination as written.
I'll second it.
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. Next, we have 24 Jacqueline Drive Company at 24 Jacqueline Drive in Amagansett.
This is a determination drafted and circulated to the board. This was for an NRSP and 5 variances. There was a split of some of the items that were on the application. Some agreed with one thing being in place and one thing not. However, the consensus was that the bin against the house was acceptable to the board. The patio, which was the only item for the NRSP, was also okay. The larger shed with bin that was basically on the property line was not acceptable to the board. So we had a combination variances approval and denial and an NRSP approval. And I asked the board to adopt this determination as written.
And we have the condition in there, right?
We do have a condition in here. Clearing building and any other disturbance to the existing dune land on the property is prohibited.
So I will make a motion for 24 Jacqueline Drive Company, 24 Jacqueline Drive, Amagansett, tax map 300-176-05-06 to approve the resolution as written.
I'll second it.
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you.
We're
next-
unanimous on that, right? It was just the things.
Yes, when I said split,
Unanimous,
I meant that
that's a
some
split.
items were acceptable to the board and some items were not. If I
Right.
misspoke and said some board members liked it, some board members didn't, that's incorrect.
Okay.
That's coming.
No, you didn't say that.
That's coming.
Wait.
Stay tuned.
Next, we have George and Susan Polsky at 133 Waters Edge in Springs.
This is a determination that was drafted and circulated to the board. This is the bulkhead replacement and seeking an NRSP only. This was unanimously approved with conditions, including the completion of the revegetation plan that was supposed to be done in 2010 per the 2010 determination. And I ask that this determination be adopted by the board as drafted.
In the matter of the application of George and Susan Polsky, 133 Waters Edge, Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-83-7-53.1, I make a motion to approve the draft determination as written.
Okay.
I'll concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. And lastly, we have Henry Proto at 835 Montauk Highway in Montauk.
This is a draft determination that was circulated to the board seeking an NRSP and 3 wetland setback variances. This was the property that had the stone walls and the stairs that were not at a prior determination that was approved by an application that was approved by this board. This was also the application where the neighbor called in and reported flooding and issues after rains due to this configuration. This was the one where the board had some split of what they were willing to approve and what they weren't. Member Johan was okay with the northern portion of the wall, but no other aspects of the application. Member Savarese was okay with the stairs, but there was no consensus by the board on either of those things. And members Berger and Chairman Deline also denied the application in its entirety. So that resulted in an overall denial of everything in the application. I ask that this board adopt the determination as written.
Then in the matter of Henry Proto, 835 Montauk Highway, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-052-1-10.3, I make a motion to accept the determination as written.
Second.
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you, and I think that concludes our meeting. Vice Chair, so we have a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and what do we call this? And the work session for a meeting for July 26, 2022 at 8:42 p.m.
Second.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you.
Thank you.